Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is Zack Zero? Alright, well this is an action platformer by Crocodile Entertainment. I don't believe they've done anything else. There's nothing else in the resume for them. This originally came out for PlayStation 3 and is now available for PC. Looks like the distant, unwanted cousin of Ben 10, honestly. Involves fighting aliens, doing platforming stuff, some fairly basic puzzle solving, and I say fairly basic, and a couple of gimmicks along the way, including different suit powers, as you can probably see. You want to be the knockoff version of the Human Torch, or indeed Iceman? Don't worry, we have all of those in spades. Okay, let's go to the settings, shall we? Now, you can probably tell it's a console port, because pretty much every console port is laid out like this, with achievements, then leaderboards, then settings, and how to play. All of this stuff is usually in the same place. You cannot navigate this with the mouse, which is a pain in the ass. You've got to use the controller or the arrow keys. So, you can rebind the keys, but you've got to rebind all of them, as far as I can tell. So if you want to change one, well, just be ready to change all of them, because if you don't, then you're going to be in trouble. I tried to find a way out of it after trying to rebind a couple of keys, and it started binding my keys to the escape key. Not exactly ideal. Graphics options are available, although, as you can see, they are fairly basic. Resolution, basic, high, and low, I believe, on this. Yep. Low, medium, and high. That's pretty much it. It is a 2D game, so once again, I do usually let them off in that regard. And you also have the option to turn on or off the friend scores. So if you don't want to be humiliated by your friends, then by all means, you can disable that. Okay, let's go into it, shall we? I'm going to continue where I left off, and I can show you exactly what's going on with it. Nice and quick load on this. As you can see, it's a fairly basic game. A little cutscene to scroll over what is coming in ahead. It is a 2D, I'd say 2D, but it's 2.5D platformer. So you've got the weird 3D perspective in the background, but it is very much a 2D game. However, in this particular case, the game does really like to indulge in the idea of the perspective shift. Now, they don't really do it in an extreme manner, like say, oh, suddenly you are behind the character. No, that's not there. What they do, however, is they really love to throw you either slightly into the foreground or slightly into the background. And this can get annoying at times because they don't do a particularly good job in distinguishing between the two. Alright, down we go. That was not a great start, and now I'm instantly dead. Oh, no, actually, not instantly dead, but pretty damn close. Took a nasty hit there. Now, I was talking about shifting suit powers. You can do that. There are 3 forms as well as your regular ass-kicking form. And these allow you to use various powers. The ice form has a time-slowing ability, which is rather handy. The fire form allows you to float for a while, which is quite neat. And then the stone form makes you move slower, disables your jump, and allows you to smash the ground, which is very much required in certain scenarios in order to bypass various obstacles. There you go, you can have one of those. They also enable various combat abilities, including big fireballs, explosions, which actually blind the enemy, as well as stomps, earthquakes, and so on and so forth. It rewards you for varying it up between these powers and gives you score multipliers if you do. Not particularly difficult to do. There are energy bars associated with the suit powers in general, as you can see up to the top there, so you can only use your suit powers for a certain amount of time before you have to go back to your regular mode, which involves having this side of arm blade and boomerang nonsense going on. Alright, up we go. Just gonna deal with them. So, as you can see, you know, it's very easy to combo the abilities together without too much of a problem. Smash that open. Now, you might be wondering what the hell these things are. These actually give you health and score. But someone... I want to find out who this is, because I want to go to their office. I'm going to politely make an appointment with them. I'm going to come in there and I'm going to say, hi, how do you do? We're going to exchange business cards. I'm going to ask if I want a cup of coffee. I'll say no, don't drink coffee, but thank you very much for the offer. Very much appreciated. And then when they come back in, I'm going to punch them in the face. And the reason I'm going to do that is because it's damn annoying. Who the hell thought it was a good idea to make their health run away from you and fall off cliffs? Are you serious? It's the most irritating thing I've ever seen. It's incredibly annoying. I don't know what the hell's going on with that. Also, there was no point in that even existing, because apparently you can just smash it open anyway. Why is that even there? There's actually a number of weird redundancies that I've found in the game so far, whereby you go down somewhere, it's like, alright, yeah, I've got to go through here to unlock this, to get there, to get that. I mean, it's weird that I even got here in the first place. It's also that weird perspective shifting going on that actually took me here. It appeared that there should have been a barrier, but evidently there wasn't. But there's a bunch of stuff that can just be bypassed regardless of what appears to be an objective. So, at that point, you think, well, why was that even there? That was just there to waste my time, surely. The game's got quite a lot of that, annoyingly so. As you can see, you know, I got all the nasty, floaty health things out of there just by stomping, and they kind of floated out of there and ran off the cliff, so I don't know what the hell they were thinking there. It's really, really weird. Oh yeah, it's a minor annoyance, but I'm going to call it just a huge bugbear because it has thus far annoyed the hell out of me in this game. Especially when some of the trickier parts come along where you're kind of getting your ass kicked. I mean, what's the point in that even being there? This serves no practical purpose. I am able to bypass this with the powers that the game gave me. It gave me a floating ability. I don't need a bridge. You taught me this in the tutorial. So it's very, very strange. So many redundancies. Alright, now, graphically, it's colorful, but the texture quality is pretty poor. Yeah, especially in some of the cutscenes where it makes the mistake of panning towards the ground. Oh, great, the same boss. I've fought this guy 3 times already, by the way, and he doesn't get any more difficult every time I do it. There's a very basic technique involved in it. Okay, oh, right, okay. I guess it's varying it up then. I'll probably have to fight him eventually, but hey, there you go. This is weird, like, those levers are always activated by going to stone form and pulling them, but in this case it decides, no, I don't want to do that. I'd rather just trigger a cutscene instead. Very, very odd. Alright. Oh yeah, graphically, it's not that great. Like, it's got this effort to be nice and colorful and establish its own style, but it actually kind of looks super generic. It's kind of, hey, here's a colorful, cartoony style, but we didn't really do it in any particular way that actually gave us our own unique spin on that particular style. It's generic, very much so, and unfortunately, very poor texture quality across the board tends to seriously let it down. Now it's allowing me to do that. Lord knows why I didn't earlier, so it wasn't the predefined time. Also, I assume that's gonna lift me up there. Alright, there we go. So odd. But yeah, there's nothing really to be impressed with as far as I'm concerned. The enemy design, I suppose, at times can be charming, but other times it's just fairly generic. Like, dealing with enemies, just like bugs and these orky things. I've been fighting these guys for about 3 levels now, which in itself isn't particularly interesting. And, oh, come on, really? You put that there? Dick move, game. The one other thing that I would say... Oh, that happens more than you might like to admit. The one other thing that I would say is that... while it's got some cute characters every now and again, but they seriously outstay their welcome. This is basically the 3rd level. I've been playing for about an hour, and it's using the same tile set and the same enemies. I've encountered about 2 enemies total. There's these bugs, and then there's these orc-style kind of goblin thingies. And that's it. That's all that the game's offered me up to this point. Which is not very interesting at all, is it? The answer is no, by the way. No, it is not. I would have expected more variety in both the environments and the enemy types by now. And yet the game doesn't really actually have that. And I have a feeling it's just like the game's pacing is just way off. It's like, well, we needed to make a lengthy game, so what we're going to do? Well, I mean, I guess we could just use the same tile set and the same assets over and over again. That sounds like a particularly good idea, right? Well, it's not a good idea, because I rapidly get bored of it, especially when the game's asking me to do the same thing, but it's asking me to do the same thing against the same people in the same environments. Now, this is only a minor variation of what we've seen thus far. The tutorial level went on for about 20 minutes, and then I actually spent probably over 30 minutes in the 2nd level, which is actually really far, far too long, in my honest opinion. Also, you can get pretty horribly stun-locked in this situation, so... dealing with him is a bit of a pain in the ass. I didn't exactly start off well, I've got to admit. What he's going to do is he's going to jump at me. If I get caught in the actual attack, he'll do a follow-up, and then that's kind of about it. The attack's actually slightly larger than it looks, so you've got to be a little bit careful. That's the 3rd time that I fought that boss. I guess if at the end of each level, I had actually had to... as a 3rd enemy type. If I'd actually had to fight someone that looked a little bit different... then that would have been pretty awesome. Why did not just shoot him? By the way, I could have just shot that enemy, but the cutscene says, nope, gotta backtrack. The game seems to be very padded, from what I can tell, up to this point. Like, levels take longer than they should to finish, and as a result, they seriously outstay their welcome. Now, there's one other thing that I'd like to point out, and that's partially to do with the graphics style, and it also integrates itself into the mechanics. You know, these things don't really get to be separate because they're rather important. They affect each other. So, the thing about the graphics style is that they've taken a 2.5D approach, and I've said in various scenarios that that can sometimes not work out so well. God damn it. Why couldn't I not grab onto that ledge? Good question. Now, the reason that it doesn't work out very well is because more often than not, it's difficult to tell what exactly you can use within the environment and what you can't. I mean, if I look down right here, I don't think neither of these platforms are useful, and yet they're rendered into the environment anyway. You've got to look down, by the way, because you actually get a lot of blind jumps otherwise if you don't use that right analog stick, and have fun using the keyboard for this, because you will be asked to use the numpad, if you can believe that. It's like, oh, there's a platform there, great. Okay, let's grab onto it. Nope. Can I drop on the platform? Nope, it's just there. Why use that asset there? That's confusing. Those platforms are things that I've been jumping on for the last hour. Now you're telling me I can't jump on them. Now it looks like I can grab onto that ledge. And it's really weird that I wasn't able to in the first place. I don't know what the hell is going on with that. There are also some parts of the game where you end up running into what look like invisible walls because what appears to be something you can bypass actually isn't. For no apparent reason. It's just like they didn't design the level all that well. If you actually made this a full-on 2D game, none of those problems would actually exist, but as it stands, it's very easy to confuse the foreground and the background in a game like this. And that's one of the big risks with 2.5D if it's not done properly. And Zack Zero doesn't do it all that well. There are other situations where you've got to run up a... What's the best way to describe it? I guess it's running up a hill, but you go up this kind of zigzag path up the hill, and then there's boulders coming down at you. Now, that's really inconsistent as well, because it moves you into the background, but there are also parts where you can jump up to the next level, and there are parts where you can't, and it doesn't actually show you which ones. Here's an example. Let's jump up to this platform here. Oh wait, it's not a platform. It looks like one. For all intents and purposes, that appears to be a platform. That appears to be at the same level. But it's too mixed in with the foreground. There's not enough definition between what's in the foreground and what's in the background. I mean, how does that not look like a platform to you, but yet it's not? Now, you might think, well, why would you go in that direction anyway? Well, the game actually does involve a fairly significant amount of backtracking at times, and the game also encourages you to look in every possible nook and cranny for secrets and power-ups to your suit. Speaking of power-ups to your suit, abilities. Okay. This is a phrase that was coined by Giant Bomb to describe games that give you a full suite of powers at the start, only to take them away from you for some annoying contrived gameplay reason and have you gradually get them back. Oh yes, this game does that. It starts you at level 20 with all of your abilities, all of these, and then puts you right back to level 1. It seems like you can level up pretty quickly. I mean, I'm already at level 9, and this is only level 3 of the game. So I think it seems like you can level it up really, really fast, but you don't get to choose anything. It all just picks it for you. Now, I've got to say that the abilities aren't all that interesting, so I guess you don't really lose out all that much, but I have to wonder why they just put that in the first place. Oh, for crying out loud, really? Wouldn't it make more sense to just give you those basic set of powers at the start and then just give you a bunch of really cool stuff later on? But the game doesn't do that. It gives you kind of decent stuff and then makes that decent stuff slightly less powerful and then you level it back up. That's not that interesting at all. You know, this is not like Prototype where you're throwing tanks around and you've got all your abilities at the start and then you lose all of your powers and you have to gradually regain them. You don't really unlock anything especially useful. You get all of the abilities you need at the start. And notice, I already have pretty much everything except one in the middle there. And you lose, I think, maybe 3 or 4 abilities and then you get them back within 1 level. So what's the point? You know, I wouldn't say that you should use abilities, but when you do, you, for the love of God, do it properly. And this game doesn't do that at all. So another one of those kind of annoying perspective shifts going on there. Alright. Let's get back up here as well. The platforming is often fairly tedious and frustrating, and it comes down to those problems with the perspective, as I mentioned earlier. I should be able to reach this, I think, probably using my Fire Surf ability. There are times when the game gives you several options, almost to the point of redundancy, and then there are other times where the game just says, yeah, you have to do it in one very specific way. Look how quick it was to kill that. I mean, that was an annoying, contrived gameplay element because, really, I could have just one-shot that creature as it was running away with the key and bypassed this entire thing. But no, it wanted to put an extra 5 or so minutes of gameplay in. I guess you can't really blame it that much. Do I have to go this way? It's hard to say. I don't know which way I'm going right now. Do I drop down there? Is that safe? Almost. Yeah, there we go. Almost dropped to my death, which would have been fairly annoying, but hey. So, I guess I can't really blame it that much because that's very much the old school style of doing things. Hey, let's contrive methods to make the levels longer. But I think that's also the reason I don't like those kind of games all that much. I think they've passed their best, as it were. Now, in terms of the actual combat and platforming, the platforming is fairly average. I like the ability to slow down time, as well as use that kind of fire surf as well. The rock abilities are a little bit annoying because they're the only set of abilities that don't allow you to jump, which is kind of irritating. And especially if you're switching between abilities a lot, you suddenly find, oh yeah, I can't jump. Alright. It's just a minor annoyance. I mean, it's not something that I would really describe as all that important, but it exists. It is there. Okay, how on earth do I get back down here? I guess I just need to run back in this direction. There we go. I like the idea that the game encourages you to mix up your abilities, but there aren't really that many of them anyway. You know, and they all have very specific purposes. Like the blinding explosion, you use that when anyone gets nearby. You can use pretty much any of the ranged abilities to take out an enemy. It doesn't really seem to matter which ones you use. And then when you run out of powers, you just kind of bash the X button over and over again. There's a couple of airborne abilities as well, like that one. But that's really about it. It's almost like they wanted to make a platformer, but they said, yeah, we've got to include some kind of combat in it. And then they sort of half-arsed it, which is unfortunate because I think the whole switching suit thing could actually open up some really interesting gameplay possibilities, but I don't think the game ever seems to fully realize that. Where on earth does it want me to go? Please don't tell me it's going to make me make a blind leap of faith over here. I guess that was... This stuff's probably just there to make you collect extra stuff, so I'm going to guess that that's not actually a blind leap of faith, but I've bypassed this now. Now, the game also lacks a map, which is a little bit annoying because in elements where you need to backtrack, you can sometimes kind of forget where you're going. I think it's probably more my fault than anything else. I think that most people would be able to handle it, but it would be nice to have a map every once in a while just to say, yeah, okay, so you backtracked about 10 minutes to get this key, now you have to go back in this particular direction. Since the game doesn't really seem to care about the whole going right thing as much as it should. Alright, should be able to open this now and actually go forward, which is always nice. And I assume this is the end of this level. Took a fair amount of time to get there, though. Now, the game itself does have this whole Saturday morning cartoon feel to it, but again, I don't think it executes it all that well. It doesn't really have those sort of great cartoonish villains. The character of Zack Zero isn't really intriguing in any way. You might think, oh, you know, it's a nice cheesy character. In what sense? You know, it took me 32 minutes to actually get through that level. Good lord.
Meanwhile, far from there, Marlene is still trapped in the cell Zulrog created just for her. Marlene trusts that Zack will come to her rescue very soon. What girl in love wouldn't trust in her loved one? But that's precisely what Zulrog is hoping for. That is what will bring vengeance ever so close and make Zack face his personal robot guards, specially designed to withstand even the most powerful attacks. That's how he plans to seize our hero. Zack's naivete will be his biggest enemy. The exchange is just an excuse, a bait that will lure him into the trap that will put an end to the young lovers. The valuable Celestinia will allow Zulrog to make his time machine run and turn back time in order to rewrite history. Then he will prevent Zack from ruining his plans of conquering Iram and avoid his brother Zonric's death. And when he has achieved all this, he will enjoy destroying them once more. And no one will be able to stop him from ruling the entire universe.
Alright, so I think you can see what they're trying to do, But unfortunately, it just falls flat. The narration is really bad. And not bad in a cheesy way, bad in just flat out bad. Not well enunciated, not well performed. And it doesn't give that whole cheesy Saturday morning cartoon feel at all as a direct result. It feels cheap. Now, don't get me wrong, indie games are gonna have limitations in that regard, but if you're hoping for that theme to carry your game, then you bloody well better do it properly. And it doesn't. At all. Disappointing, really, because I think, you know, there's definitely places in the market for that. I think there's a lot of games that are trying to do that lately. Some manage it, some really, really don't. And this is a prime example of that. Well, the tile set has changed slightly, but I'm still fighting the same enemies from 3 levels ago, which is rather annoying, I've got to say. Why am I still fighting the same goddamn enemies? The variety is so weak. We also, of course, have enemies just spawning from nowhere. They make very little effort to actually conceal where the enemies come from. They'll just run them off screen, and if they come from the back, they'll often just pop out of nowhere, which is lazy to say the least. Why is the perspective like this? I mean, I guess it's trying to be clever, but the perspective being slightly off like this and the camera sort of weirding out and going in random directions based on whatever the art designer thought was a good idea at the time really is not a good way of designing your game. If you're going to change your camera all the time, please have a good reason for it. What are you showing off here by doing that? You're not showing off anything, really. So I'm not really sure what's going on there. Overall, I mean, my opinion of Zack Zero is not that good. I can see what it's trying to do, but it is often very frustrating. The platforming is not all that good. The combat is fairly repetitive. The abilities is irritating because there's no purpose in it even being there. You know, it was a contrived mechanic to try and force you to look around the levels a little bit more for collectibles. And yet, I'm already on level 4 and over halfway to getting all my stuff back, but since you get all your abilities back very quickly, it then just becomes a little bit extra damage, a little bit extra area of effect. That isn't entertaining. If you're gonna do ability progression, you've got to lock up some of the really cool stuff till later on. And yes, that may very well involve limiting the kind of stuff that you can do. Like, for instance, Fire Surf, you pretty much need to do in the tutorial, but then you also need to do in, like, level 2 when you lose all your abilities, which means that you can't limit Fire Surf. But that's a design problem. They decided to design those levels in such a way that you needed Fire Surf. But they didn't have to do that. They could have saved that till later on. It's like they kind of blew their load a little bit early in that regard. Unfortunate, to say the least. And as I said, this perspective nonsense is really odd. I mean, it really, really is. They don't seem to have a lot of understanding of how that actually is supposed to work. Man, can I actually jump up? I mean, why can't I jump on top of that? It's because I'm mysteriously beside it. But I'm not. Then I'm beside it. But I'm not. Don't do this. It's a 2D game. Don't pretend you're 3D. Especially if you don't know what you're doing with it. Yeah, the game is overall just really wonky, and it's very, very hard to actually recommend it. There are also people suffering performance problems, as well as just being... Did you see that? Nobody would have thought that that was possible. Let me just do that again. You climb over the side now. That's just... now I'm to the side of the thing. This is what I was jumped on in the first place, but now I can't jump on it because I'm to the side of it. But you have no control over that. Oh my god. It's complete and totally inconsistent. Ah, bloody hell. Now I can just jump over that. So what was the point in that even being there if you can just jump up there in the first place? Oh my god. There's plenty of other examples as well of just inconsistency in terms of smashing the ground and having certain wooden bridges smash and certain wooden bridges not smash. Certain pieces of ground will smash, but certain ones won't, and yet they look identical. It's really hard to tell whether or not it's actually a piece of fragile ground or just bad texture work. Oh, man. As I said, performance issues for a lot of people. Some people can't even load the game. I believe it was either Force Strategy or Northern Lion was complaining that he couldn't even load it, which is pretty bad. That is very, very bad indeed. The first time I tried to load it, mine didn't, but then it decided it would. There are a bunch of people on the Steam forums complaining of the same issue, though, so it is clearly not imaginary by any stretch of the imagination. Oh, dear. I also had an SLI micro stutter problem. I had to turn off my SLI because otherwise the game was running really stuttery, which is really weird. So it's not well optimized for PC at all from what I can tell. Micro stutter is a problem that's mostly been solved lately because a lot of games just flat out support SLI properly now, but Zack Zero is one of the first games in a few months that I've played that I've actually come across micro stutter, so that's not too good at all. Not particularly impressive. Oh, great, a blind drop. Yeah, it's, you know, it had some potential, but it's a mess. It really is. It's not something that I would recommend to you. Even if it were on sale, it's still got so many frustrating elements to it, I don't know if you'd even enjoy it. If you're into the old school platforming genre, there are plenty of other alternatives right now. We're definitely not lacking in that, and I don't think Zack Zero is something you should be really all that interested in. I know I'm not into platformers. Yeah, I know that for a fact, but there are platformers that I can say, you know what, I think they designed this well, even if I personally didn't enjoy it. Zack Zero, on the other hand, not so much. One last mention would have to be given to the soundtrack as well, which some people actually claimed they liked. It doesn't fit. Like, it's just a bunch of random music that seems like it would be better in a fantasy RPG. This is a sci-fi action game, and it's supposed to be trying to evoke memories of the old school, and yet this music is nothing close to that. Give me some chiptunes. Give me some stuff that sounds like it should be in Mega Man or something like that. Now that would give me the old school vibe. But this music is incredibly generic, and it seems like they just kind of bought a bunch of music that wasn't really suited to the game at all, which is really unfortunate. So yeah, overall, Zack Zero is, in my opinion, not worthy of your time. I certainly did not enjoy my time with it, and I will not be returning to it. It is available for $7.49, £5.24, or €7.49 currently, 25% off. It will go down... There we go. It will go down, or up in fact, to $10 because it's currently on a 25% off sale. But yeah, it's not very good. Honestly, it really, really isn't. My name's been TotalBiscuit. Take a look here at Zack Zero. Thank you very much for watching. This game is currently available on PlayStation 3 as well as PC via Steam and good digital distribution platforms. And I will see you next time. Oh, wonderful. It's the same boss again. Fourth time's a bloody charm, apparently. God.